That it's really hard and so much of that crabs in a barrel. I mean, it is alive and well.
Now, for those people that are not from this area, you have to explain crabs in a barrel. Well, okay, if you have a bushel of crabs,
different versions of it.
They're all trying to get out, and every time one gets to the top, all the rest of the crabs at the bottom pull them back down.
It's a very, very complex thing. It's like a soup with a lot of different ingredients, and so what I don't like is when people outside of our community try to analyze these folks and saddle them with labels.
I can fight, I can play ball, all that stuff, but I ain't caring about that stuff, man. Those guys got together and got, hey man, you gonna come with us, man? No, I'm going home, man. I'm going down the hill, man.
They got to me and they said, Daryl, there's a lot of basketball players that sitting on the corner drunk. Right. Do you want to be like them, or you want to be something different?
The flashlight was that. It was whatever you're doing, you can't hide, because everybody's got a little light under the sun.
See, when we went on tour with George, we had a spin-off group, the Baltimore Connection. So we used to do different gigs around the area, around the Baltimore, D.C. area. And the arrangements we did, we brought them to P-Funk.
Changing. And one of the things that, Roland, I love about your shows is that you mentioned that sometimes we tend to be just tunnel vision.
I would go back to letter U, and I would say, do you have a sense of urgency?
I'm young, I'm 25 years old, and when I was 19, Roland, I got diagnosed with gallstones. So when I got into this business and I met Dr. Bruce, he said it's mainly come from what we eat. The foods that we're eating is basically killing us.
We're denying the fact that this is one of the worst times on the planet for our people. And we think it's okay because we're in Prince George's County. Go to Mississippi or Alabama.
Literally, this is a painful time. Beyond people are hurting. It's so blaring because media outlets who we depend upon are only displaying just the most disparaging images. And
the violence, I don't think anything to do with how much go-go has grown or continue to grow. To me, it boiled down to basic economics at the beginning. The economics of it was easier and more economical to produce hip-hop. The hip-hop you were producing were go-go tracks that we recorded.
It's a very, very complex thing. It's like a soup with a lot of different ingredients. And so what I don't like is when people outside of our community try to analyze these folks and saddle them with labels.
DC is a very, very different kind of breed of people, man.
Everybody's gonna fight when we get together, doing our thing in order to help each other, in order to help your brother. I got a thing, you got a thing, but say everybody's got a thing. When we get together, doing our own funky thing, in order to help each other, to help your brother. I wish everybody would help us shine. I got a thing, you got a thing, everybody's got a thing. When we get together, doing our thing, order to help each other. Help your brother. Order to help your brother. Say it again, y'all. I got a thing. You got a thing. Everybody's got a thing. Together, doing our thing. Order to help each other. To help your brother. Your brother.
the DMV, I-95 North, a cornucopia of life, health, sights, and sounds. The lessons you are about to hear are applicable to every urban environment in America. Born and raised in D.C. is one thing. But I left, I came back, a different kind of place. And, the music had changed, the people shifted, men and women, that I grew up with, redefining who they are, how they are. We can't sustain our own community because we don't invest in our own development in our own community. And you're not supposed to survive. It's not a matter of do we deserve to survive as people, as a race of people, as a nation of Washingtonians? No. We don't deserve anything. We have to go earn it. The dawn of modern-day DMV began in the mid-1900s as D.C. broke down the walls of segregation.
Chocolate City, as it is known, began in the late 1950s when groups of courageous black teenagers fought through the perils of change and changed history by integrating the District of Columbia. And that's coming as close as it may ever get to having those 40 acres and a mule.
Well, the integration thing didn't help us because we lost that dedication. The schools or the teachers we had then, they were dedicated. And then when integration started, the first thing, if you look cross-eyed at one of the teachers, they would toss you out of school. I know when my kids started, they integrated out in PG County in '72, they were tossing kids out of school, that they had to come up with some type of law to reduce the number. And it was always for minor infractions. So the impact wasn't felt until years later when they started to put more black players into the, major sports. Redskins, good example. What, 1962? All that time, George Preston Marshall, if you all remember his statement, he said, I'll integrate the Redskins when the Harlem Globetrotters integrate.
And I got down there and then I was told, hey man, you got to go to McKinley. I said, how am I going to go to McKinley? I said, Gus is down here. He lives closer to McKinley than I do. How am I going to be in McKinley? I said, I live in Detroit Park. So anyway, they told me I had to report to McKinley.
It's wonderful about the integration, but it didn't help anybody but them. It helped them because all the good teachers left Armstrong and went to those schools, those different schools. It just hurt to see things happen like they are now. We're back to slavery. Look at the SEC. Look at those people down there. They all, Mississippi got this, Alabama got on the basketball team. They got 5 blacks. All black teams are playing, but they don't get that money. Look at the guy from North Carolina, University of North Carolina. They got Dean Domes down there that Michael Jordan made for them. They didn't get that money. They were prepping them for better things, but they made mausoleums out of down there on those campuses. We didn't help ourselves either. We didn't help ourselves. I think about teachers, that kids that come to school, they didn't come prepared. They weren't taught anything at home. And how you gonna teach a kid something if the kid doesn't have manners and know how to respect people? and we don't respect each other. This is a terrible thing. But I'm just pissed off at the whole situation.
I think one of the things, Roland, that we're looking at is there was a time when what was most important to us was inside of our house. Right. And I saw the transformation in my lifetime as I was growing up. I saw kids give more value to what was going on out on the street.
So we're living at an interesting time because we've seen so many changes that the young kids today, don't appreciate.
Yeah, I got beat like a slave, man, because I would lie to him. I was scared to tell him the truth. I didn't know what the truth was. Just like now, people don't know right from wrong. They don't know it, and they got to learn what right from wrong. And we are suffering with it, right? They don't know what's right, Look, STOP does not mean step toe on pedal. It means stop. And that's what, but that's what's happening to us, We don't know what's right and what's wrong.
Look at your kids, and you brought them up the right way. When we were growing up in Georgetown, Anacostia, everybody looked out for you, that whole block.
I had a good base. When I was growing up, I had my great-grandfather in the house. I had Mr. Sutton next door. I had you and your father across the street, Mr. Peterson, Mr. Carrington. I had a whole neighborhood.
But now you go to a football game here and you don't have a whole bunch of parents. The kids are rowdy. You can smell the marijuana. And then when they go to the next level, they're confused because they don't know how to act. They can't respect anybody. And that's a darn shame.
I can fight, I can play ball, all that stuff, but I ain't caring about that stuff, man. Those guys got together and hey man, you gonna come with us, man? No, I'm going home, man. I'm going down the hill, man. I had no money, scuffling like a dog. I'm glad I got a scholarship to Howard, man, because I was gonna go to the University of Miami at first. I got kicked out of junior college.
Yeah, there was a couple of coaches that got to me and they said, Darryl, there's a lot of basketball players that sitting on the corner drunk, right? Do you want to be like them, or you want to be something different? That's it was rewarding for me, just like I guess it was rewarding for the Mr. Suttons of the world, Mr. Grimes, who was here earlier today, Mr. Peterson's not here no more. I'm sure for them, my grandfather, my great grandfather, their only wish in this world was to see me play a game of basketball.
And not until winning became the watchword in collegiate sports or higher up, that's when they started to recruit us, because they weren't doing a lot of recruiting. Because I know in 56, 57, hey, you can get out and you can play the best game of your life and nobody is going to approach you.
I know when we had a fight there, he called an assembly and got everybody to say, I'm not going to tolerate that between the whites and the blacks. Not going to have it. And
they broke in the locker room and stole it. So I got transferred to Eastern. I had to pass Eastern to get the spin gun. And now it was fortuitous that I went to Eastern when I did, because we got, as you said, brand new helmets, brand new jock, brand new cleats. Locker room was pristine, everything. People treated us nice. And the good part about Eastern High School was we got to go to Pennsylvania and stay in hotels. Where the Philadelphia Eagles were staying, and we played Harrison, Pennsylvania, Bethlehem.
All the guys, me and my brother would get up early Sunday morning and go down to the basketball court and wait all day long to get a chance to play, because all the guys would come in from around the city, and we'd stand there 4 or 5 hours waiting to get down. But it was an experience. I mean, you learn how to play, and especially down there on that small court, you always use this as I took after you with that flipper. I kept him off me with this arm.
We integrated McKinley Technical High School in that other landmark decision in 1954 in the Brown versus the Board of Education. And we collectively have been the beneficiary.
Washington, D.C. at that time was heavy into baseball. Yeah. We grew up from young kids heavy into baseball. Didn't think personally so much about what Jackie Robinson was doing as opposed to what was going on with the Negro Leagues and baseball. The guys that came out of the Negro League, I mean, they were great ball players, not just Jackie Robinson.
And the irony of what Jackie Robinson experienced, it's so crazy because in Georgetown, and everybody who grew up in Georgetown or went to Francis felt like we were the best athletes in the city, bar none. And there were a lot of athletes. You didn't need your paper clippings because nobody was paying any attention. You bought your game and your ability. And before I got to high school, I had the opportunity to play against Willie Woods, who is now a Hall of Famer, Pro Bowler, the whole 9 yards. And the craziest thing that happened before I got to high school, I saw a guy with one arm. And when we saw this guy with the one arm, we all got together and said, what position does he play? He said he plays catcher. I said, oh hell, we're gonna steal a lot of bases today. Somebody got on base and they attempted to steal second. Gary Mays threw the ball up, put the mat under his nub, and threw the man out.
But one of the most disappointing things, and I think about it all the time.
All right, now tell it now.
Upon graduation, none of our coaches, who happen to be all white, bothered to try to get us a scholarship or to get us into a school of higher learning. And I mean, I was kind of hurt by that.
Yeah.
To baseball. And living around Griffith Stadium, you're always into sports. The Redskins, which everybody hated, but you couldn't miss it because every Thursday night they were practicing and the drums were beating and the Indians were dancing. Hail to the Redskins. You have to be an athlete. One of the most important things you had to do, you had to learn how to run. You had to be fast. Don't make any difference whether you're a boy or a girl. You had to run, if you were a girl, to keep away from the boys, and if you're a boy, you had to learn to get away from the police.
Because all of us who were athletes were not heavily recruited by these schools, the HBCUs or the big schools, because our black coaches didn't have that connection.
Was in Topeka, Kansas.
And it was the same thing in New York. New York had been integrated for a number of years, and I found that out when I started to work with people from New York, and we were talking about integration, and they said, I've been going to school with, the white kids and the Jewish kids, for years, so it was nothing new. But
I don't think there are very many people in here who realize what that Brown versus Board of Education was all about. Now, that it was a businessman in Topeka, Kansas. That was the head case. The schools in Topeka, Kansas, the high schools and the junior high, the upper levels, had been integrated for years. That Brown versus Board of Education was for the little kids, the elementary school kids. And this man, he was mad because, and as he should have been, because they had to, he had to send his little kid clear across town to an all-black school, whereas the whites and the blacks went to school together in the higher levels all along. I did not know that until I took a trip out there 2 years ago.
That's what we had to go through. And I wish that there was some way we could get these young kids to realize that today they started recruiting, they send them on recruiting trips, they fly on an airplane. I got on my first airplane when I got drafted into the military. These kids got 4, 5, 6, 7, trips.
D1 school.
Yeah, D1. It's incredible. But yet still our kids are still killing each other, and that hurts.
Sports has been a vital part of the DMV I-95 North experience for many reasons. Sports is a microcosm of society, so what happens in everyday life also happens on the playing field.
It was about football. It was about business. Those are the kind of lessons I was learning in college. It wasn't about you out there having fun and people ditching you and things like that. It was about the business of football. As far as the spiritual people who were teaching you all these different things. It was about either you perform or you didn't. And if you didn't perform, there wasn't much compensation for you at all. And
up into the parking lot where the players are. We saw a Ford Mustang, a Suburban, we saw El Camino, and we saw a pickup truck. Who were they?
Those are the white guys on the team. Those are the white guys, their rides.
I saw a Ferrari Testarossa, I saw a Lamborghini, I saw a Cadillac Escalade tricked out to the nines, and I saw a Porsche Carrera 944, whatever that is. Who do they belong to?
Those are the black players. Rolling strong, man. And they probably all had 20s, 22s, 24s, the whole nine, right? So those are the black players.
Now, Tioka, help me understand why.
Yeah, I mean, that's unfortunately, for us, is we're culture that consumes. Unfortunately, we as black folks historically have taken our money and spent it, and that's what we do. That ball till you fall mentality that you hear young people talking about. And I got caught up in it early in my career. I remember being in the locker room, getting ready to board the bus to go fly and play a game, and I'm sitting there in a custom-made suit, 20 whatever 100 was, Everett Hall right here, and I'm dropping 2,500 in a suit. And I'm looking at the guys, who were making, some of the white guys were making double, triple what I was making, and they were wearing suits right off the rack. And I'm like, what am I doing? I mean, this is, once you spend it, it's gone. My dad used to say a fool and his money will soon part, and I found myself being a fool. So that was my moment. I need to stop doing that, and and they had put that money to work for me because it wasn't going to last for long. NFL means not for long. So
yes, I can.
In your most recent experience, has things changed much?
No, they haven't really changed. I spent some time with the Indianapolis Colts. I'm sure everyone in here heard of Andrew Luck. Just to piggyback off what Tioka was saying, I guess the Caucasian athlete. Andrew Luck, an example was his truck was if he was riding, down Central Avenue, you wouldn't even know it was Andrew Luck.
I went to school I'm very proud of, and I think our coach cared a lot for us, Joe Paterno. But honestly, that getting us prepared for the NFL and what comes with it wasn't really a focus of his. And so while we did have a guy come in, we had Matt Millen come in. And talk to us one time about the league and what to expect.
You're in the light playing football and then playing basketball and doing all these sports all year round. But the biggest thing with me was all this stuff behind the scenes that your average guy doesn't know about, and with the extra time that you put in. And I'm talking about just regular homework, and you just got to find a way to balance all that stuff, and it comes down to having all your priorities straight. And for me, I had a great foundation with my parents and a good support system with my guidance counselor to just kind of put those things in the check for me.
Man, I love it.
Happy birthday, man.
Man, I appreciate that, man. You spent a couple with me in summer camp, didn't you?
Yeah.
Look, I'm gonna slide that mic up to you. However you do it, just do it, man. There's no
get it done.
All right. That's it. Like, you tell me you were a football player, get off the stage.
I'm out.
Brandon. Man, do you have a middle name?
James.
No, seriously, what's your middle name?
Brandon James.
Brandon James Coleman.
Yeah, they only say that when I'm in trouble.
When your daddy says Brandon James.
My mom.
Oh, your mom. Yeah. Okay. So, and you know it's time?
Don't be saying that.
You get nervous. That's your heart.
The biggest difference is their mentality.
What do you mean?
On and off the field, and I give a lot of credit to my coaches from high school as just preparing me mentally, just how to conduct myself and have respect for the game, and I think that's what it's all about.
What would you tell the young athletes now about that type of situation to prepare themselves for it?
Personally, I shied away from all that attention, that extra attention. I was, Roland can tell you that, and my father, kind of just raised me, just kind of let my play do all the talking, and I really didn't have to do anything other than that. But my advice to the kids growing up now is just to do that. Just let all your on the field action do all your talking, and there's no need to get caught up into that whole other stage, because it can get bigger than what you want.
Great advice.
Started in the Baltimore area with the world-renowned Dunbar High School under then-coach Bob Wade. He then took his act to Georgetown University and played for the Georgetown Hoyas National Championship basketball team in 1984. Everybody talks about the NBA like it's this great mythical endeavor that every kid in the world needs to go to, that mom and daddy wants them to go to it, etc. However, you had a chance to experience life in the National Basketball Association. What are some of the things you learned from that lesson that you like to pass on to some other people?
Well, I like to, I tell young kids, I've been working with young kids since I left professional basketball, and it's a life for adults, you know what I mean? And a lot of young kids, you know, coming through the league and not prepared for that league because they're getting into a lot of trouble, or they spending their money, they're not money managing on what they have. So it's a different kind of life. It's a life that you got to be disciplined in.
Now, how did you get adjusted to it, or how long did it take you to get adjusted to being a grown-up? Because you finished your all 4 years
yes,
at
I finished all 4 years,
okay.
graduated with sociology degree.
Okay. How long did it take you to adjust to adulthood in the NBA?
Well, we had a whole lot of guys who went before me.
Yes.
Patrick Ewing, Billy Martin, Gene Smith, Sleepy Floyd, Bebe Dorn. And, you know, I kind of asked them questions about it. And when I came along, they had programs for drafted rookies coming in Dallas. It was a seminar where they taught you how to deal with the finances, how you deal with people who come at you different ways, different women. It was a good program. It lasted 4 days, and it educated a lot of us.
No, you did finish your degree.
Oh yeah, most definitely.
In what?
Kinesiology and health sciences.
Kinesiology and health sciences, so you can break them up and help fix them. Man, because see, safeties used to be like 165, 175 pounds back in the day. Oh, how much do you weigh, dude?
215.
You see, now, you know, when I was in school, physics said mass times acceleration equals force. Now, 175, I used to hit these jokers and drop them in half, fold them up, and like in their career, and in their careers. At 215, these guys are bringing a lot more lead to the party now at 215. Are safeties now over 200 pounds typically?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
I mean, it also varies on height. I'm one of the tallest safeties, so.
Right. So now, how tall are you?
6'1", 6'2".
No, I'm 6'2".
I'm about 6'1", 6'2".
That's NFL measurement. You're 6'1", 6'2". When you walk by me, you're 6'4", dude. I don't care what they say. Now, you have a vertical leap that's like, what, 77 inches or something like that?
No, only 42.
Only 42. All right, now, I want you all to understand what a 42-inch vertical leap is, okay? That means he can stand on one side of a Range Rover and not take a step and just jump right over the Range Rover and land on the other side. I saw him in high school. I'm not even going to tell you what he, but 42-inch vertical leap. Yeah. Man, you know, mine was only 47.
Yeah. It's a lot of weight going up in there.
It's a lot of weight going in there. See, I knew he was going there. Because this is called professional football, there are cats around you that are getting paid.
Yeah. Getting paid.
All right, so let's talk. What made you decide on the Detroit Lions?
Well, just talking, you know, with my agents, Chris Coyne, Tony Page, they felt like that was the best bet for me as far as, you know, making the team and making the roster, you know, giving me the best opportunity to, you know, showcase my talents, you know, making sure that I was going somewhere where, you know, there was going to be a fair advantage. You know, I wasn't going to be just, you know, a camp body or, you know, somebody that was...
Now, did you say your agent was Chris and Tony Page?
Yeah, I had two.
Man, Tony Page was... Oh, it made my life miserable in high school, man. That's a whole nother show. But, so they help guide you in that decision-making process.
Yeah, at the end of the day, I just had to trust them that, you know, they'll help me make the best decision for me.
With the little kids, you when you're young in the AAUs and all that stuff, and what happens is they're successful. So they go to high school, so now everybody thinks they're professional athletes because they're good in high school. Now they go to college, might be just good, because there's a lot of other people around this world that's very good. And what happens is, and when the guy doesn't make it, his family makes him feel disappointed.
This is the 21st century.
Uh-oh, here we go.
All this stuff about playing ball and all this stuff, if you don't have a trade and you don't have an education, you're not getting a job. You forget all that talking about, yeah, I got all this. You don't have nothing. These young kids out here walking the street, dropping out in the 7th grade and the 9th grade, telling me, yeah, I'm gonna make it out here. You're not gonna make anything. There are only a few rappers out there. And when you look at all these rappers, these guys ain't, you got a few guys.
Yeah, 3. That's big time.
That's big. The rest of those guys, they're not doing anything. They walking around with their pants all down on their behinds and thinking they sharp. It's not even a penitentiary thing. It's a slavery thing.
I had come off of the most traumatic experience of my entire life. For the first time, that's why I know that it's all by design. I never experienced racism before. Coming out of high school, I was one of the most highly recruited guys in my area. On the way home one day, or the day I found out that, the day I was contacted by Notre Dame, which is where I wanted to go, Catholic State, I called my dad. My dad was ecstatic, and he came out of school and gave me some extra money, and I was going to pick up my girlfriend. Well, anyway, we were accosted by, let's just say, many Caucasian males, and I remember going up to a police officer and saying that we were being followed, and he was like, well, have they said anything? And I said, well, no. He said, well, have they approached you in any way? I said, well, no. He said, well, how do you know they're following you? I said, because I'm from South Philadelphia and I know when I'm being followed. He said, well, when they do something to you, let me know. I wound up, my girlfriend at the time wound up being knocked unconscious, jaw broken. My cousin had a knife at the time, but was afraid to use it, so I took the knife from him and proceeded to chase 6 of them down, attempting to protect myself and what was left of my friends. Never before in trouble. This is a true story now about the very cop that would not help us put a gun on my face and said, nigger, blink and you're dead. I wound up doing 6 months behind it.
Yeah, I remember.
Yeah. And
this was before you came to college?
Yeah, before I came to Syracuse. The reason why I went to Syracuse is because prior to this incident happening, I had over 230 scholarship offers. At the end of my 6 months, I had 2. Yeah. So when I say that I speak from experience, I do.
He also spent some time building and trying to build some apartment complexes in the southeastern neighborhoods where he grew up. He also is the only one who owns an IHOP in Washington, D.C. area. You all don't know this, but there was not an IHOP in D.C. in history until he opened the first one. All the IHOPs were in Maryland. Now you have, if I'm not incorrect, exclusive rights to the Washington, D.C. area. Is that correct? That's correct. For the International House of Pancakes. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Games on, the Redskins are playing right now, college football is really kicking in. Along with, a host of other games. There'll probably be some more college games on. Saturday we'll be opening up for the first time at 12 o'clock p.m. Games all day.
You just happen to coach at a historically black college and university. How did you get there? And tell us a little bit about that experience.
How did I get there?
Yes, sir.
Well, I guess the reason why I had the perspective on the fact of making a mistake is because I made a mistake in being a coach at the University of California at a BCS institution and having to pay the price for that. And then having it to appear that I would be out of coaching forever, I didn't want to accept that, and eventually had an opportunity to get back in. So many different things, aspects that has to change. And, I used to think that you could win a national championship from an HBCU, but I don't think that you could do it because there's so much infighting that it's really hard, and so much of that crabs in a barrel. I mean, it is alive and well.
Now, for those people that are not from this area, you have to explain crabs in a barrel. Well, okay, if you have a bushel of crabs,
different versions of it.
They're all trying to get out, and every time one gets to the top, all the rest of the crabs at the bottom pull them back down, and they climb over that one so they can get out. So it's a constant flow of, as soon as someone gets up there, somebody's trying to pull them back down. That's crabs in a barrel for those that don't know.
This is Professional Ultimate. It's otherwise known as Ultimate Frisbee. But essentially, you find a lot of elements in this sport. You find elements of basketball, soccer, and football. You find some great athletes. This sport has been around now well over 30 years. Started out being played in a lot of Ivy League schools, and now it's at the professional level. For those that are looking to continue with their athletic career, maybe after college.
Tell the kid, I want you to become a professional in something. As opposed to saying, I want you to become a professional basketball player or a professional football player. But however, if you get the opportunity to become a professional football player or basketball player, that's just icing on the cake. But become a professional in life, become a professional as a person. So then, therefore, after you graduate and leave college, you'll be better prepared for the real world.
Business to you, send business to me. It's just a nice referral network of people looking to work together where we build a society that makes it better for everyone involved.
It's a win-win situation for everyone.
No doubt whatsoever.
Now, some of the folks who are watching now who may want to connect with you to learn more about, what is a good way for them to do that?
It's probably just best to go to my website. If you go to my website, there's a way that you can contact myself or some of my associates. If you just go to www.gridironbusinessnetwork.com.
You do some of your own management too.
I do.
Softball.
I manage my children, my household, my job, as well as my entertainment industry. And I wear many hats. I always tell my children, you have to be able to wear different hats.
Had I really been on top of my instrument, I could have had that job. I learned at that point that you can't just sit back and rest on your knowledge and rest on your laurel. Well, I played with this person, I played with that person. That's all fine and dandy. What are you going to do today during this audition? You know, come draft time, you know, you got all these guys in this covered up football field. You know, what are they going to do that day? It's all, your stats and everything are cool. Are you going to impress me today?
As you met me, I was the mom, you know, the football player. My son plays football. My daughter is a soccer.
Matter of fact, you held the chain. You held the chains during one of the games. You said, I thought I was going to hate this, but this is fun. You know, the person that holds the yard marker, that was her. I've been in this business of education for 30-something years. And I know that a lot of times when I'm trying to provide quote-unquote guidance to young men and young women, I get a lot of pushback from the parents. Now, Brother Bozeman, have you been finding it from time to time difficult to connect with either through your camps or some of the other strategies, some of the youngsters, because the parents are providing a barrier to you getting through to their children? You don't have to be specific about it, but just in general.
So don't name names? No, I would say that, you know, I mean, it's there. I'm kind of a direct, to the point person. No. So yeah, I know that's a problem. But so I gotta get that out front right away. So it's the when they go home that gets back into their heads, you know. It's up. But if they start complaining about something that coach is not allowing them to do, then that's when you gotta go, hey, listen. Coach didn't allow you to do that because, or just listen to coach, just follow what coach is telling you. Or sometimes what happens is people don't allow themselves to see the vision. Okay, and it's kind of like themselves. Yeah, it's kind of like you know, have you ever been to a carnival and someone's drawn a caricature of you, and at first, you know, your friends are standing there going. Right, they're doing all that. That don't look like you getting a complex. But then, yeah. So, but then at the end they go. Then you can see them going. Oh, okay, I see it. So you know, if you're painting a picture, you know, if once you start painting a picture, there's no way you could tell. You can't criticize my picture while I'm in the middle of painting it.
You'll find us there, and you'll see what our society is about, and it's just a good business model. Very fortunate.
Skip, we're gonna put a link on our website to them. And we're going to have some strategies.
See, he was more vocal when it was the girl sitting up here putting a link on that site. You know, I
asked his permission for that one. This one I didn't ask for
permission. No, he did too, but he was more, absolutely. I got an absolutely out of it.
Well, I'm empowered by this interview, so we're going to do it. I have been empowered.
Gary Clark Stark
stuff. A wig on? What is it? I have to call my name Samantha? Do I have to be Jody? What do I have to do to get it done?
I think
I just want a link, just a little link.
You missed that opportunity, brother.
I think he's going back to
some of your X and Y, some of your daddy's X and Y chromosomes. you missed that boat. You got to get on the next one. Hey, folks. With my main man.
Got to be on the boat.
Did you? Yeah, she was getting down and dirty. She said, you know, this game is a lot more violent than I thought. But you really enjoyed it, though.
I love it. Now
I was over there talking trash.
We were. You can't keep me out of football now.
And that's what you said. You said once you got close to it, you said this is more dynamic than I ever knew sitting up in the stands.
It is, and I love it. Now my son is like, Mom, could you please sit down? Could you go home? I'm one of those moms that's like, what? Why'd you do that?
You just scared the bejeebers out of me.
She transformed like
she turned into Mom.
And I use something as simple as Little Red Riding Hood, okay, and the three houses, and the house is it's the three pigs. I'm sorry, the three pigs. See, and the house is being built with straw, with
right. The three different elements: the big wolf, big bad wolf.
Right.
Huff and puff.
So which house do you want? You know, I mean, go back as elementary as that. I mean, which house do you want? Do you want the one that's built in brick? With brick and mortar, that's built with straw, or that's built with, it's just got like a
twigs on
it. Twigs, exactly. So I mean, I use that analogy, and I ask them, so which one do you want? I mean, because if you want to be prepared, then you got to take it slow, and you got to take your time building.
Well, my instinctive reaction is going to be the bricks.
Right. So they understand that it's going to take us time to build this house.
Absolutely.
Because if I build this house in a week, and over here I took 3 months to build this house. Not that it would take that long either, or it should take longer. But which one do you want? And you instinctively are going to say, I want the one that clearly you took your time to build. Okay, exactly. Then why wouldn't you want me to take my time? Why wouldn't you want to take your time to build to get where you want to get, no matter what industry it's in? Exactly. Why wouldn't you want to take your time to get there? So,
and I have to give you credit because everybody doesn't take that chance to step out there, get dirty. These guys are falling and bleeding and sweating and spitting and all that, and you're sitting there and you're like, Mr. Grimes, I'm doing this thing, and I'm like, wow, that's, you know what?
I thought you were going to bring up with my son, actually. Now, they say when you hold the chains, if you see the football players coming towards you, drop the chains and move. Right. I'm all excited. My son's coming towards me.
I'm just going to give him a hug. Coming out here 100 miles an hour. There go my baby. Oh, there go my baby.
Next thing I know, I'm on the floor. My son's like this, and I'm on the ground. And the whole crowd in the stands are cracking up laughing.
Once you got out there, first they were like, oh my God, they killed her. But nah, you talk about getting into your work.
You know what the head coach said?
What did the head coach say to you?
You can take a hit. They saw where he had it from. That's it.
All right, how y'all do that on cue? Did y'all practice that before?
Whether or not we're putting too much emphasis on this thing called sport in our society. I know that I had heard a while ago that Charles Barkley, and I'm not sure, I wasn't able to validate this, said to someone somewhere, hey, when I go into an inner city school in Los Angeles and I ask how many people want to play in the NBA or the NFL, 95% of the young brothers and sisters raise their hand and say, hey, I want to be a pro athlete. Mm-hmm. Well, when I go to Beverly Hills and I ask that same conversation, it's 5% of the people say, hey, I want to play in the NFL or NBA. I know that Daniel Snyder and I are the same age. While I'm running around trying to figure out how to catch a ball, he's sitting around trying to figure out how to own a ball team. Today, the pioneers of integration, retired and current athletes, and many DMV residents want to change and improve their minds, bodies, health, and beauty, and look to new age leadership to help challenge age-old nutrition, health, and medical practices.
Doc, what can you do? Help me out. And the strangest thing in our community is, have we just all decided that God doesn't know how to make kidneys anymore, and that's why kidney dialysis clinics have we just accepted that God doesn't know how to make pancreases? And that's why everybody's got diabetes. God doesn't know how to make hearts. So that's why everybody's got high blood pressure and heart disease and heart conditions. Something's wrong that we're not recognizing this next word that I'm about to go to, which is denial. So letter D for denial. We're denying the fact that this is one of the worst times on the planet for our people. And we think it's okay because we're in Prince George's County. Go to Mississippi or Alabama, or go down this way on Central Avenue, down towards DC.
It started with me personally. I have two main reasons. The first reason is because, like I said, I'm young. I'm 25 years old. And when I was 19, Roland, I got diagnosed with gallstones. And you know what gallstone is, painful. And what happened was, I had went to the emergency room, and it got to the point where I had to get surgery, so they had to take my gallbladder out. Over the past 5 years, I gained over 70 pounds.
It is the worst warfare that we've been in, ever. And it's so subtle that you can act like you're making it and you're doing all right, and we're not. Because somebody has decided that I can alter the health and well-being of a community by altering their food.
I changed everything. And when I noticed that I was changing what I was eating, I was dropping the weight. The sugar level was normal. The high blood pressure was normal. And I just felt the need to try to change my life. So when I got into this business and I met Dr. Baruch, he said it's mainly coming from what we eat. The foods that we're eating is basically killing us.
You look at different animals in creation, and the orangutan is one, or the gorilla is one category where you're seeing that they eat nothing but fruits and vegetables. Right. And if they were in this room, all of us in this room would get our butts kicked because of the amount of strength and capacity that they have. We just don't have it. And they're eating nothing but fruits and vegetables. So we have to look at some of the science that we have adapted as a result of conditioning from television and radio and what's been given to us even in our schooling. We're going? Well, let's go there then. It's time that we recognize that something has happened to our food chain, our food supply, that is damaging the natural endocrine balance that should exist inside of us.
Testosterone, estrogen,
yep,
among them.
All day long. Yep, and we're seeing issues with women and endometriosis and fibroid tumors. We're seeing, hysterectomies are at an all-time high, and it's because of our overconsumption of estrogens.
And those chemicals are injected into the meat product.
And don't get cooked out.
Oh, they can't get cooked out?
No, they don't. They're chemicals. They don't get cooked out. They stay in the flesh, and they cause the same damage to us that they cause to the animals. But that chicken and that cow doesn't live but a couple of years, if that. Sometimes a couple of months.
Yes, you can see that. Again, it's about the information. We need to learn how to eat better. We need to learn how to take care of our bodies better. The information is out there. Unfortunately, there's still a number of us that don't know where to go to get this information.
Dr. Harris, I know you're not ready for this, but while I was sitting at the restaurant bar having my chicken wings and my soda and getting ready to order my dessert, Fred, make sure you just do this in the camera. Is it in the camera? Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I'm sitting there and I'm looking at you, distinguished gentleman, your voice is strong, your pinstripes are working. I know the camera doesn't pick it up, but man, you got it going on. And you know what I was thinking as you were talking? I don't like you. Okay. I just didn't like the fact while I was eating that 15th wing that you started talking about I needed to eat some veggies and drink some water and not eat as much fried food. That disturbs me for some reason.
And I would say, do you have a sense of urgency about the situation that we know that we're addressing? With regard to our health and well-being, knowing that although Roland looks good, because he reminds us of that all the time, he looks good and he can still get a phone number and he's still all of that, he would look so much better if he wasn't carrying that other person around with them.
What was it that happened that made you wake up one day and said, I need to make a change to my health, and gosh darn it, what did you do?
Well, I was going through some personal challenges, and actually looked at my wife and had seen the life sucked out of her and the love sucked out of her, and I said, you know what, one of these days I have to make a change or I'm going to lose her. And 10 days later I ended up hit play on a DVD, did a couple push-ups, drank a shake afterwards, and the rest is history.
Matt, you're going to get every man in this room in trouble. Every woman that divorced us said the same thing. We ain't about to know Matt. Brandon?
Yes, sir.
Tell me about Matt.
I asked him, were there any times where you wanted to give up, but then you persevered through it? And he told me a little bit about some of the times. He said that there were some weeks that you didn't lose weight, correct? Mm-hmm. Which may put your confidence down. There was also times where, well, he did say he overcame some problems, personal problems, as we talked about. You know, is it okay if I talk about it?
Yeah, absolutely.
So he was addicted to smoking. He was addicted to alcohol. Also addicted to gambling. What advice would you give him? He said, "There's always a better way out. No matter whatever you think, no matter how down you are, there is always a better way out." And he said, "Always take the opportunities that may be life-changing to you." And quote for quote, I highlighted this. Don't blink, just jump, right?
Yeah.
We're going to start there at the end and work our way backwards. When you say don't blink, just jump, tell us what that means.
Roland, so many people in life have opportunities every single moment, every single day flash in front of them, whether it's money related, whether it's job related, whether it's life-changing related, whether it's relationship related, and they pause, they think about it, they're very hesitant, and we as a society are a very non-reactive society, and we're not very proactive either. So when things...
Which means we're just not active at all.
Exactly. Okay. So when something comes in front of you that says, hey, I challenge you to lose weight, well, if you look in the mirror and you gotta lose weight, just take the advice of the person that's challenging you to lose weight, and chances are your life is gonna change forever.
A little over 2 months ago, I had joined a company called Total Life Changes. And you know, we have a flagship product called the I Also tea. And this tea is amazing. Like, my grandmother had, like I told you, was diagnosed with cancer, and she drank this tea for 2 weeks. And when she went to the doctor to get her last surgery, thank God, he told us that the tumor shrunk from plum size to now quarter size. Tea. You know, to be honest, I ask myself that every day, and it was just like, you know, to this day, it's like it's still shocking that tea can have a big effect on your whole entire life. And I don't want people my age, we shouldn't have to go through this. You know, back in the day, you always hear your grandmother, your great-grandmother has this certain because they old in age, they 70, 80, 90 years old. But for a 20-year-old to be so overweight, have so many illnesses, so many complications, and the first thing they ask is why. They go to their mom, like this lady right here who is my mom. You ask her, Mom, why is I overweight? Or why do I have diabetes? Or why is this to the point where I have to be medicated 24/7? Kids 20 years old shouldn't have to go through that.
And we're not responding with a sense of urgency like we should in order to address this critical situation that unfortunately we're going to give to our children. Our children are going to inherit a really bad situation, and they're really going to be upset with us because meanwhile we're still acting like everything is okay.
Well, you know, I grew up in South Africa. When you were growing up in South Africa, I always knew I wanted to be a physician. For me, becoming a physician hit me when I was 9. I had a cousin who died prematurely, and so I sort of wrapped my mind around doing that. And then when I was almost 13 years old, during the riots in South Africa, my best friend was shot, and I held him in my arms as he died with a gunshot wound, ironically, to the heart.
I really didn't have too much diversity as far as what I wanted to do. It was one of two things. I wanted to play basketball or get into medicine. Wasn't into I want to be a policeman, I want to be a fireman. I really pretty much was wanted to be a doctor. I even had that little game, Operation. Everybody remembers that.
You bring it back out, right? Ankle or something.
Yeah, I'm
trying to get past the light bulb.
Yeah, I'm showing my age right now. Right?
So what you have to understand from my standpoint is that in South Africa, as a black person, we were not allowed by law to become surgeons. It was against the law that existed in the land.
The law?
It was
This is during the
apartheid, yes. Okay. So during apartheid, it was against the law for me to become a surgeon. Moved forward in medicine, little did I understand that God had a different plan for me, a different strategy that ultimately led me to this country. So,
you have to appreciate that, and this is from the Center for Disease Control, federal agents out of Atlanta, Georgia, tracks this stuff. Each year, medical doctors in America kill, injure, and infect 15 million Americans in hospitals and clinics. Medical doctors kill, injure, and infect 15 million Americans each year. That's yearly. And every doctor gets a walk. Nobody gets a no-shoot ticket. Nobody gets fined the equivalent of a parking ticket. Nobody has their license suspended for 3 seconds. They get a walk.
The way that we're established, the results, Dr. McCool is being actually humble in the fact that the results that we do have are dealing with patients that also have multiple comorbidities. And what I mean by comorbidities, I mean they're coming in with more than one health issue.
Like diabetes,
at a time.
hypertension, and
exactly, obesity as well. And to be able to produce these kind of results that we've been able to do is, I think, extremely, great, to be honest with you.
So when I did come to America, I was fortunate enough that my medical training took place at Howard, so I saw a lot of people who looked like me in the So here's the funny part though. When I finished my cardiothoracic surgery training, guess where I went? I went to West Virginia.
That's funny. You went from Howard to West Virginia. Hilarious.
So for an entire, almost 4 years that I was there, I was the only black physician in West Virginia. And
you were the only black person in West Virginia.
Well, I brought my kids with me, so.
All right, all three of you.
So here's the interesting part about that, is that when I went there and I distinguished myself, all of a sudden everybody was seeking me out. The color of my skin made very little difference to them.
So tell us about the insurance industry and the role that the insurance industry has played in destroying our health.
Okay, and as you point out, Dr. Baruch, that the insurance is really an ATM machine, and you are the bait for the physicians to get to it. In passion, I want you to think of a 16-year-old boy with his first car, and he's going on his first date with his girlfriend in his first car. Using parent terms, that boy's goal is to get in that girl's pants as quickly as he can in the backseat of that car. When a doctor graduates medical school, his goal is to get into your insurance policy as quickly as he can. In the animal industry, particularly with farm animals and pets, we don't have health insurance like we have for humans. And if we were to use a human healthcare type of system for livestock, your dozen eggs would cost you $250 and a pound of hamburger would be $700 just to pay for the healthcare. And so I took it to my boss and he immediately fired me. It should have been a Nobel Prize. He said, everybody knows it's not a birth defect caused by nutritional deficiency, well, it's genetically transmitted. I said, no, sir. Do I not get a committee like a PhD student that would get a committee together and challenge me if I can answer the questions, and everybody would agree upon it? Oh no, we'd be laughed out of the university if we called together a committee for such a thing. You're just fired. And so that's when I went back to school, because I knew that they weren't going to treat those kids properly, because doctors were actually treating diseases incorrectly. There's no law requiring a doctor to cure you when there's a cure available. For instance, you can cure rheumatoid arthritis in 3 weeks for about $300. But doctors like to treat you for 25 years and make $750,000. And so this is because of the power they have. They've been, since 1914, a protected monopoly, self-policing, no oversight by any agency, and insurance. Okay. If they cut off the wrong leg, you pay them, and then they cut off the leg they should have cut off, and you pay them again.
To answer your question, Roland, I've been involved in holistic health for a while.
Holistic
health in general, yes, sir. And I used to do a lot of workshops right here at Everlasting Life. Dr. Baruch and I did several workshops centering around holistic health. A close friend of mine who's actually the VP of the company, Mr. Charles Carlton, presented this product to me like 3 years ago. And he said, Haru, we have something that I think is really going to be big. And I think you need to check it out. So he gave me this little white tube of real-time pain relief. And he said, if you have any pain, I want you to try it out. It'll knock it out very quickly from a holistic, organic approach. And let me know how you feel about it. He said also, it's a great opportunity for a business. Now, Roland, at the time, I was really...
Who wasn't trying to hear it?
I wasn't really feeling it. And Dr. Baradia, a well-known dentist here in Prince George's County, had some pain. And it was in their knee area. And I kept hearing them complain about it. I said, wait a minute. I said, I think I got something that might help y'all. Gave them both a little sample, just like I did you and your dad. And they just came back with all these raving reviews of how awesome this product worked, how quick it worked, how good it smells. And I kind of got touched by that. And I said, you know what? Let me revisit Charles Carlton, my buddy, and talk about this real-time pain relief. And since then, we've been hitting America hard.
One of the most distinguished physical therapists in the entire world, undergraduate, South Carolina State University Bulldogs. However, he was drafted by the Detroit Lions, according to him. I gotta check that on Google, but I'm gonna trust him from there. Played wide receiver, so I have 2 wide receivers with me right now. Why? I have absolutely no idea.
Well, I mean, for any injury, whether the person plays football or whether it's somebody at work, whether it's a mom at home taking care of her family, our job is to get that person back to doing what they did before. So whether you're talking about RG3 or whether you're talking about Ed Lee, my joint, his joint still works the same. If it's a knee, it still functions the same.
It's the same joint.
It's the same joint. Same muscles, same ligaments. So whether it is somebody that works for Metro or whether it's somebody trying to run the read option, you got to treat them the same. Now, how aggressive you get with that person or whatever the goal is determines how hard will you push them. So,
your turn, big man.
Like, we talk about all of the injuries that all these athletes are facing, especially now in football.
Yes.
They want the guys to run faster, stronger. What do you have to say? What's the major injury that you always come across?
Well, I mean, typically what everybody's afraid of initially are probably ACL.
It's the knee.
That's the main thing. However, the most catastrophic injury is a neck injury. So we're talking about now with neck injuries and concussions. You know, that's what all the research is about right now, and the biggest concern right now are hip injuries.
Fitness was once considered an option, but is now becoming a necessity as the NFL, NBA, and corporate America espouses a healthier nation of people. DMV-based companies like Under Armour and recently Trueform are supplying the kind of ammunition along with traditional and modernized training led by incredible male and female professionals eager to reduce obesity and enhance health for the entire DMV.
So for me, fitness, I don't just look at it as a job, I actually look at it as a ministry. Because particularly in the African American community, we invest in our careers, we invest in our homes, our vehicles, relationships, clothing, but we neglect our health. Until the doctor tells you that you need to get in shape, or you need to get a trainer, or you need to work out or else. You're on this medication for your blood pressure, you're on this medication for your cholesterol, you're on this medication that has different steroids, so now it's a systemic effect. So instead of you just eating correctly and being active, you're taking care of your job, put everybody before you.
Well, when I first started out on my journey, being an entrepreneur wasn't even in my mind at all. It's just kind of something you hear about other people doing, but you're stuck in it 9 to 5 and you don't really want to make that transition.
Help me welcome back to the set a gentleman who really doesn't need any introduction. Just look at him. That's the introduction in itself. I probably don't even have to tell you what he do for a living. But if I didn't do that, Roland would kick me out of a job. I wouldn't have.
Literally started, and I still have the little weights that I just sat in the floor, did this with. I didn't know a clue about what I was doing, but I was fortunate enough to have a good mentor that was one of my coaches who was a certified trainer, which is a totally different thing from someone just says that they're a trainer, as you know.
So after that, I got sick with DVTs, which are blood clots in your legs. I couldn't walk. I had to stop working out. I had to go to work part-time. So I started training. Once I got better, about 6 months later, I started training part-time. So I worked part-time, I trained part-time, then eventually I got on social media. People started following my story. and encouraged me to, start doing this training. And
welcome back to the Rolling Grimes, not just sports entertainment show. Wilbur Skipper on steroids. He just took a break. He just took a break from the set. I'm here to finish up with Dr. Tariq Harris and Mr. Eugene Helms. Keep down, I love you. I just don't like you a lot right now. Go ahead, man, talk to me.
Well, I think for me it started at a young age. In 4th grade, I wasn't always into fitness. Just put it to you like this.
See, the dude's trying to say when he was in the 4th grade, he was fat, plump, and chump.
Well, I mean, yeah, I was. And in 4th grade, I was 127 pounds.
Man, in 4th grade, I was 186. Never mind. Strike that from the record. Don't y'all go nowhere with it. Okay. But as I read that section, the one thing that came to mind is I think of, Skip and I, we talk often about growing up in Southeast Washington, and we hear a lot about some of the challenges that we have, especially in inner city communities, United States of America, and we say this is one of the reasons why we have these health gaps and these technology gaps, these math and science gaps. But when I go back and I read Dr. Makunu's book, and I realize that with all the challenges that we had in Washington, D.C. and Southeast, it was nothing compared to what this guy went through. And he was able to overcome it, rise above it, and ultimately become a heart surgeon. So I'm trying to think, what's the excuse for the rest of us?
True form is a new way for athletes to train anywhere under resistance at any given time. It's basically going to take training to a next level.
We've gotten great results with these bands. We had one athlete, baseball player, he was maybe squatting like around 185. In about a 6-week window, he went up and squatted 415, 1 rep max. In return, ended up running his fastest 60 time.
This is an exciting time for True Form. We're trying to take training to the next level, and we hope you guys give this a try.
People shifted, men and women, that I grew up with, redefining who they are, how they are. Black men, have to redefine or refine themselves.
Where women are put in a position of, when I say leadership, there's not a problem with a woman being who she is, being professional, being powerful, and men are having an issue with that concept of being liberating. I'm going to be honest with you, I'm not comfortable with it myself. Because how can you be a couple, how can you be together and be liberated? That's a contradiction.
Women are very powerful. We are very powerful beyond what we even know. And I think a lot of women...
Now you're scaring me.
Yes, but I think that's the thing. And that's what I coach women to do, to really master their independence without intimidation. Because a lot of women can be very intimidating to men. So they, we shrink back and they're not leading, which men naturally are supposed to lead. But they are afraid to lead because we're so intimidating.
Now, we do live in a powerful area. And women have great jobs and earning potential, and men do too. But as you said, there's a statistic that says that women do out-earn men in our area.
Black women.
Black women. And so...
Kind of a mixture of both. Mainly a non-issue. The dynamic of all female band is challenging, not only because you have all females, but because you have at least 3 or 4 of them that are bona fide leaders. And they have to learn the art of compromise. And then as a manager of these women, I have to learn how to submit myself.
Why is the man feeling frustrated that way? You know, one of the things that I've heard as I matriculated to school is, so as the higher I go, the fewer black men there are around me in classrooms, and in undergrad there's fewer. Then you go to grad school, there's fewer. And again, I think it comes back to understanding the differences.
It happens. Women start nesting and thinking about the future a long time before men, which has a lot to do with our development and the way it goes, just by nature, you know.
And so the concepts that we're getting from society, when they come into our homes, it's separating us. And we have more battles in our homes. We work with men who are reentry. Some come from the military, some come back from prison. And so they're coming back in and they're trying to take their rightful position. Men who may have been separated from their children, and they're trying to come back in and be fathers. And there's so many other things that society is telling us as far as what that role is. And we hear some things, men hear some things, and we know they aren't right, but we want to keep peace in the home. You know, we've all heard that saying, if mommy ain't happy, nobody's happy. Well, you know.
Where I'm not coming at them with a pimp mentality. Let me say it like that.
Sure.
You know, because as men, we can be a little dominating, and knowing that I'm working with women and start pointing fingers and giving direction and things like that. And definitely with this band, that's the wrong thing to do, but especially with a demographic with all women, you have to learn how to be a good referee.
So a lot of times when men are saying some of the things that they're saying, it's important for me to get some background as to, well, what kind of relationships did they see? You know, what kind of examples have they had? And are they a traditional type thinking individual or kind of non-traditional?
Most of us are different. And the difference, the thing is, we don't really accept the differences that we have between men and women.
And in couple situations, one of the most important things is valuing the differences. Can we value our differences? Can we find out why a mate might feel the way that they do? And I will be honest, sometimes what I do discover with my male clients is they're very clear about what they think, but they often are not in touch with how they. Doesn't there have to be some understanding of each other's plight? There has to be some putting yourself in another person's shoes and trying to understand where they come from. I think for the brothers, it might be helpful for them to kind of look at how much of what they're feeling and internalizing has to do with their own feelings about their accomplishments and goals, or not reaching those goals, or feeling held back and oppressed from those goals.
And now, because of money's coming into the picture, and because a lot of women make more money than men do, that changes the roles in the family. And why would that change the roles in a family? Because you have more money. So if that switches, now you're going to give up that role? If the man makes more money, now he's going to be in charge. And whoever makes more money, it changes the position in the family. But we should be together. We should be able to coordinate, come together, come to a resolution, and work as a team.
I would kind of think that it's more like a historical type thing. When you think of a woman, if you have a home where there's a man and a woman, typically there's certain roles that are just associated with the mother that are not necessarily associated with the dad. And not that, of course, dads are really important, fathers are important, but probably if you fill this room with 100 women and you said, who makes your kids' doctor's appointments? Probably out of those 100, a large percentage is going to be the mom that handles that part of child's care.
Well, you know that we live in a fatherless society where I believe that a lot of men don't know how, really, what is expected or what is required of them. as husbands unless they have a man really helping nurture, teach them, help them to build their confidence. And unfortunately, I've experienced a lot of women don't know how to do that either. They don't know how to build a man's confidence because of their expectations of how men should lead their families. So we have a very
disjointed.
Yes, that's a good word. Disjointed relationship. 76% of African American children are born to single parents. That's a lot. And it's something like over 80% of children will never live in the same house with both parents.
But they would call the house, and I would answer the phone, and they would ask for my wife. They wouldn't give me information. And so we made it a point of letting them know that she does have a father. She does have a father who's active. She does have a father who cares about her. And just as you give her mother information, you can give me information.
About the fact that 75% of our community is single parent women, it speaks to the fact that the men aren't in the households for whatever reasons. And a lot of men don't want to take care of their children for whatever reasons. We can't expect them to take care of other people's children or to even mentor.
I think that irresponsibility that you're referring to, I think that that's more of a societal issue as well. I mean, when you have black men being locked up at a disproportionate rate than any other races for the issue that I personally have is, this whole thing with locking men up who don't pay child support. Well, okay, you've locked me up, but that's still not helping that. There was a story just recently where a guy, he robbed a store at 23, supposed to go to jail. They never, came and got him. He even inquired, why didn't you, come get me? The 13 years passed that he was supposed to serve, and in July of last year, U.S. Marshals just showed up on his doorstep, took him away from his family. This man is not, he's a deacon in his church. He's, been raising his kids. He's been doing the right thing ever since, he committed that crime. And, you had this outcry of he needed to now go to jail for 13 years. Fortunately, there was a judge that had some common sense that said, look, you've changed your life around. We can see, evidence of that. And so from the time that you've been in jail since July up until you've come before me, time served, go home and be with your family.
You did mention mothers, right? Crying out for the father. Absolutely. It's difficult to be a single mother, and I don't think anybody really wants that to be their fate, if there's something that they can do about it. But yeah, absolutely. Mothers want and need support. Mothers want an emotional connection between their children and their children's fathers, whether they're together or not. Mothers, I had someone just telling me the other day in one of my sessions, it might have been earlier today, that the reason why she feels she still has anger towards the dad, it's not so much that he's incarcerated and will be until 2034. It's that because he's incarcerated, now I struggle financially.
When you say cry out, I don't know, I agree with you. But what are they crying out for is usually my question. Because a lot of younger, and I hate to use the word urban, but urban women, they're not really crying out for fathers just to be there for children. They're crying out for themselves. So some of them actually have babies, not to really have a child, but to have a connection with the man. And some of them don't cry out because they want them to be a father to the children. They're just crying out because some of them don't even want the children. But they
ask the person, do you women need to be this anymore? I mean, you're looking at the fact that now you guys are making more money than us. You're looking at the fact that you can hire somebody to cut your grass. You can hire somebody to clean your house. You can hire somebody if you want to take out the trash. I think I was talking to the market speaker man, and I'm going to keep it how I say rated G because we have some children in here. But we were talking about writing a book called The 3 Ds: dinner, and dance, and then you fill in the third. And it's almost as if I'm hearing. Now understand, this comes from a lot of conversation with people. I'm almost hearing that there's this burgeoning trend among our women that they don't even need us or want us around
either because they said, well, you was absent for so long, so the hell with you.
I grew up with two parents. They've been married almost 50 years. And in my mind, like, I always knew I'm gonna grow up, I'm gonna get married, and I'm gonna have children. And I had a dad there, a good dad. So in my mind and in my life, a father was an asset. You know what I mean? Something that didn't look at it like a need thing. It was something that I wanted because that's the way I grew up.
When did we become liabilities? Because when I grew up, we were assets. When did we become liabilities?
I think that's the factor that you have to consider, the perspective of the woman and the perspective of the man that woman is with. Because having a man there is not necessarily, a good man is a good man. But having a man there just because I have a man there is no benefit in that.
Right. You know what? A buddy of mine in Buffalo, Franklin Red, he said that one of the things that he notices that black women especially do is they hedge all the time. And what he says, what he was referring to is that they hedge against the fact that you're going to get sick. They hedge against the fact that you're going to lose your job. They hedge against the fact that you're going to step out on them. So what happens is instead of giving themselves to you in totality, they're always holding something back because they know at some point you'll be like every other man in their life, you will be disappointed, discouraged, and settled. And then once it starts happening, they say, there it is. And now the hedge becomes a movement away from.
I agree 100% with what you were saying. I've spoken to sisters, and they pretty much tell you straight up, they view marriage as unattainable. But all of them would like to be mothers one day. So they would rather fulfill that desire of motherhood, have the babies, but they don't look at marriage as something that's attainable because of how they hedge, us cheating on them, or us not being around, us getting sick. So the institute of marriage in our community is like non-existent. No one wants to be married. And I think it starts there.
Does it really start there, or does it really start when our families start falling apart with the absent fathers, and all you see is the woman raising the children? With whatever you're trained, whatever you put before a child growing up is what they're going to believe. You can say whatever you want to say, but what they see is what they believe to be true. You just made a great point. You grew up in a household with a mother and a father. That's all you know. If you grow up in a home with just a single father or mother, that's all you know. So then you grow up and then you try to obtain something that you are not familiar with. It's repetitive behavior as it relates to how we work. That's why it's so important as parents that we really present what family really is before our children as they grow up, because that's what they're going to believe. You can say what you want, but what they see is what they believe.
Men hedge too. When the last time that you were at a black wedding and it came to the time for that garter to get on, have you seen the men part like the Red Sea? Nobody wants to catch that thing.
Let's talk about that. So what happens is our hedging a lot starts before we even get into the relationship. And black women's hedging starts after they get into the relationship. So what happens is men are ducking their jobs. And see, when I was 9 years old, all I wanted to do was go play in the NFL. When I was 14, 15, 16, and we were in school together, all I wanted to do was play in the NFL. Now, something on TV with Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs or whatever, so she was looking for Prince Charming, and she was looking forward to her wedding. So I have these young ladies who are growing up looking forward to their wedding from the time they're 7. And from the time I'm 7, all I'm thinking about is trying to get to the NFL. So by the time I'm 25, 26, whatever age it is that someone's talking to me about marriage, I'm looking at them like, for real? You know, like, I want to go play ball, and I'm still chasing that till I'm 40, almost. So what happens is we almost start out with this situation where when we get involved with a female, and you guys jump in with a few more minutes, jump in as you want, we start a situation involved with females, and we're running right off the bat. Is this someone I'm going to have to marry? I understand. Is this someone I'm going to have to marry? Or is this someone I want to marry? Right. Or is this someone I'm going to have a relationship with? And we have to figure that out and compartmentalize you right in a hurry, because we know that you all will not sit idly by and wait for us to make a decision on what we're going to do.
that you're going to press whatever agenda forward that you have. Now, if I'm wrong or whatever that is, go ahead and put it out there for me.
Anyone want to take that?
You know, so the children today is a lot different from the way it was in the past. You know, we decided to give them better lives than we had. Our whole thing now is, you know, we don't want to deny our children anything. We want to make sure we give them everything, every opportunity in the world, etc. The problem with that, unfortunately, is if you give a man a fish, he eats once. Teach a man to fish, he eats for a lifetime. And we're getting out of the habit of helping our children to dig the ground, plant the soil, and grow it. We go to the grocery store and they eat. We put it in a microwave and they eat. They don't have to heat it up. They don't have to make it. They go and get a box or bag and then boom, instantaneously have food. And that's a problem when you start talking about, if that's a problem for any animal to not become self-reliant.
Written 2 books, previous books about athletics at Maryland.
Okay.
And I was an athlete
Maryland,
at
University of Maryland,
yes. And I was an athlete there in the late 70s and knew a lot of people who were affected by Len's death.
Okay.
One being the athletic director, Dick Dole, who was an assistant coach on the track team when I was on the team, and he was a mentor of mine, still is, I know him very well.
Okay.
And I saw the documentary, the 30 for 30 documentary with Without Bias. I saw it in late 2009, and it made me think what books had been written about Len, and I found that the 2 previous books written about him came out in the early 1990s. And I thought it might be time to do something, not about, and I looked at the books, most focused on how he died and the immediate aftermath.
Okay.
I wanted to do something on his legacy, how his death affected things. I knew how it affected the athletic department of Maryland. It had quite a traumatic effect on the department. I knew about the Anti-Drug Abuse Act of 1986. I wanted to find out more about it. That act was passed directly because of Len's death, and it changed the way drug offenders were penalized against a lot of young black men, by the way.
I really want to be able to meet young women or young men where they are. If you was to give someone today a self-help book and say, here, read this book, this is something that's actually going to really help you, the odds of you getting them to actually read the self-help book is very, very slim to nothing. So my idea was generally to put something in there where they can relate to it and it's entertaining and they're actually learning a lesson in the process of it without even knowing that they're learning, you know, in the process.
Okay, so you're gonna trick them into learning.
Yeah, so it's kind of like meeting them where they are and taking them where I want them to be.
Okay, yeah. I gotta keep my eye on you. That's what you know, gone are the days where when kids went to practice, they had to catch the bus, they had to ride the bike, or they had to walk, and it meant more to us who had to walk a mile to practice than it does for the person who was dropped off at practice every day. Because you had to want it, and it meant that you didn't want anyone to take it from you because of all that you put into it just to make it to practice. We had to walk miles sometimes just to make it to practice. So there was no way we were gonna let anyone take anything from us on the field or on the court, because we paid a price just to even get there. Now, people say the kids of the day don't have to do that. They don't have to do it because we take that from them. We're handicapping them by doing everything for them.
I wanted to humanize the story as much as I could, and I knew the best way to do that would be to reach the people who were most affected by his death, and also who knew him in life, very close to him. So I had a goal of talking to every one of his teammates that year, and I did to all but one. And the one I didn't was David Gregg, who was with him when he died. I talked through his attorney. Terry Long, I did talk with on the phone. Terry Long was another teammate who was with Len when he died. He hasn't talked to anybody. And I wanted to humanize it as much as possible, write the book through the eyes and the feelings of people who knew him best, really depict his legacy as completely as possible. When I started the book, the first person I met with was Brian Tribble, who was with Len when he died, and who many blame for Len's death. They say he provided the cocaine. That's never been determined to this day. Brian was acquitted of all drug charges in a trial a year after Len died.
Well, like you just said, I wanted to hit the readers over their head. You know,
And you did.
I wanted to hit them over their head before, like Taisha just said, I went into a message. My story is about the woman who has lost herself. Well, actually, she never knew who she was. So she sets out on a journey to find out who she is. She has a grandmother in her ear that's trying to give her cautionary advice as that nothing's new under the sun that you're doing. But as we all have been there, she has to find herself. I was born and raised in East Baltimore, I started on the path of college immediately out of high school. It didn't work then. I went because that was the thing to do. That's what I was told to do. You know, go straight to college. I didn't know what I wanted to do, who I wanted to be. I just went. You know, so that didn't work out really well. So after a few semesters of not so good grades, I left. And then a couple of years later, I went back. And actually, I went back after I lost my mom. I lost my mom in 2003. And I believe that when I did, she passed on a sense of courage to me.
There was a give and take that he had with Coach Drizel. Coach Drizel famously talks about before games, Coach will go up to Len and say, "Len, how you feeling?" And Len would consistently say, "Coach, I was born ready." The irony of that title, well, it means he was born ready to handle anything with basketball. He showed that he could. The irony of that title is he was not born ready to understand what abusing drugs, specifically cocaine, could do to him. And the mixed legacy of Len Bias, because as we've talked about in the previous segment, there are a lot of traumatic moments from his death, how people were affected by his death. It was a very tough thing. But there are also positive elements to it. Coach Drizel also tells a great story, and I write anecdotally about this in the book in repeated situations. A gentleman approached him as he was leaving church a couple years ago in Virginia Beach, a gentleman he never met before. And the gentleman came up and asked, "Are you Coach Drizel?" He said, "Yes, I am." He said, "You coach Len Bias?" He said, "Yes, I did." He said, "Well, Len Bias saved my life." He said, "How did that happen?" The gentleman admitted that he was a cocaine addict, he had lost his job, he had lost his family. When Len died, he stopped using cocaine. It saved his life. I talked to young adults then, even teenagers, who said, they were young adults and teenagers when Len died. Len's death was the big traffic light, the stop sign that said, "Stop using drugs," and they stopped, or they never did because of Len's death.
Okay, Skip, these are my family members. So understand, I'm on a team. These are my family members. I lost a teammate very early. He actually committed suicide here in Cumberland, Maryland. His name was Wes Dove. To this day, when I look at Wes's pictures and I deal with this, Wes was a 6'7" Adonis, and a very good friend of mine when I played at Syracuse University. To this day, I can't handle and I have difficulty. And of course, when I read these stories about athletes going through some of the same things now, it brings me back to that day when my teammate came in, sat down and said, "Hey man, I just heard the worst news in my life." And I'm looking at him like, what happened? And he said, "We lost one of our teammates. He just killed himself." And I'm like, "Wait a minute, I play on the same team as you. Who are you talking about?" And then he told me. And I never forget that moment, I never forget that day. I don't necessarily want people talking about what happened in my family, in my locker room, in my showers, if they weren't in there.
In terms of Len Bias, his death, I will share this with you. When I got the news that Len Bias had passed, I couldn't believe it. It just floored me. Len was not only a friend. I really look at Len and his family as a family of mine. I had an opportunity to really get to know Len Bias, so I was floored by that. So I sympathize with you, with your friend that you lost. Now, I will say this. I believe that this platform that Dave has is one that's going to help a lot of people. You spoke about that with the one situation that you had with the gentleman who was on cocaine, who it saved his life. I am all for doing things like that. Anything that can help somebody, I'm for it, and I think this platform is going to do well.
Okay.
For the young members of the audience, high school, middle school, college age youth, this book proves that you make one bad decision, it can ruin not only your life, it killed Len Bias, it can affect a lot of other lives. And I think beyond that, people I think want to understand what his life and his legacy is all about, and I think hopefully the book does that.
Okay, I commend you for your audacity.
Definitely.
I commend you for your courage. I'm going to watch real closely.
I look forward to that.
All right. God bless. Look here.
I actually grew up in West Baltimore, Oak and Liberty Heights. Single parent. My parents started off together and they wound up separating. Life wasn't a fairy tale. A lot of things that I had to actually endure. One of the ways that I've actually was able to escape is through writing poetry and so forth. And I've always been spiritually in line with myself, even in the midst of confusion. Just a person who had to just take on, much like Radiance. That's something we have similar. Had to take on a lot of responsibilities before I had to learn some harsh lessons and had to learn how to bring in supplemental income, got involved in some things and had to do what I had to do in order to, survive and do whatever it is that was needed.
And I had a new outlook on life. And I was finding my purpose at that time. And that's when I started writing. I went back to school and I was more focused, more driven. Through journaling, I came to the book and I was able to channel in on some of those different personalities I discussed with you. And so that's what I did. I was that, like you said, I was that naive girl. Went through a few stumbling blocks, a few hurdles. Didn't take advice from my elders. Had to learn through some hard lessons that they were trying to prevent me from some harsh lessons. So, but I wouldn't trade anything for it.
Some amazing things, but I believe, I've said it on paper, I've said it on the record, I'm going to say it again on the Roland Grimes show. I think what you're looking at, and I really mean this from the bottom of my heart, I believe what you're looking at is one of our future leaders. And when I say that, I mean, I'm not discounting anything. The President of the United States, Congressman, Dr. Lawyer, whatever she wants to be, with her parents backing her, and she has great parents and great family, she is going to do it. Now remember, Wilbert Skipper, Mr. Self-Empowerment, I said this earlier, okay? May 20th, 2014. Write it down.
And no, it's recorded. It's recorded, it's copywritten, so she has to make us part of her cabinet. I want to be your Minister of Fine Arts. So, give me a story. Make one up.
Everyone's surprised at the high school level. I actually did teach second grade full inclusive in Baltimore City Public Schools, my very first year of teaching. And I teach honors pre-calculus math now. And people are really surprised to hear that I had second grade. I had 33 kids. I was right across from the principal's office for strategic reasons. They can do a lot of amazing things at that young age.
I mean, okay, look, when we were in the third grade, we were creative, but not to the point where we had to go to the suspension room with a guy named Bubba watching over you.
Yeah, you'd be surprised what the kids
I'd
can
be
do.
surprised.
Hitting, biting, kicking.
Oh, the stuff we did, no, I'm sorry, I apologize. We did all of that, except it was normal. It was normal, but remember, Rob, we kicked, bit, punched, and bullied, except it was normal back then. Okay, so now I stand corrected. You're right. Some of that creativity is outside the bounds now.
Yeah, they frown upon that.
Many times, students just get stuck. We had a conversation.
Well, folks get stuck.
Yeah, but many times students really get stuck. And sometimes it's hard to pull them out. For example, that 4th grade year, that 5th grade year when those standards change. If they haven't been real successful in grades K through 3 in learning to read, it's then hard to read to learn. The challenge gets to be, though, we've got to get our children ready for this change because we've got about 2 years. That means our end of the year 9th graders and 10th graders have got to be ready for the change. The change will affect a lot of things. Number one, it's going to affect the way data is counted. Number two, it's going to affect athletes because along with the SAT changing in 2016, the NCAA says that every person who goes through the NCAA in order to play college athletics has to have a 2.3 average rather than a 2.0 average.
My next step is to actually be, when I grow up, I want to be an international lawyer.
So that's my next step. Well, I'm actually going to Europe. I'm going to be visiting Italy, Spain, and France with the People to People program. And there I'll be learning about the cultures there, about the food, and it's a very great experience. I think I'll love it. And I will make sure to bring back a ton of information for everyone.
There's two versions of it at Bishop McNamara. One is getting my juniors ready for AP calculus, advanced placement, and then the seniors that take my class, I'm trying to get them ready for that. Probably one college math course that they're going to take just because of the major that they select. And when they have the comeback day, what we call our college comeback day, the kids come back and really are thankful that, at Bishop McNamara we push them through the math system, take math all 4 years, the honor system, and get them ready for college. And then my juniors, it's a little more intensive, and I'm trying to get them ready for that advanced placement course and possibly get some college credit.
Let's start from Emerson Village.
Let's talk about Emerson Village.
That's where we grew up at. And we started from 91 even to Emerson to Leonard Street, 400 Mile Holly Street. That's our whole community. And we have a lot of folks that have loved us for a long time.
Down for you. Where we came from, it was more like we used to operate off of tapes more so than anything. Now everything has gone so technical, everything is digital now. So being that it's digital, we have to learn digital.
We are changing, and one of the things that, Roland, I love about your shows is that you mentioned that sometimes we tend to be just tunnel vision. We look and say, the SAT is going to change. That's one thing. The NCAA is going to change. That's another thing. Core content is going to change. That's another thing. So the challenge gets to be who's going to be most ready, how, and why.
A minister friend of mine in Syracuse recently put something on Facebook. He said he went to a clinic, football clinic, and he said the parents were pouring the water for the kids. The parents were putting the water bottles in the cooler. The parents were wiping the kids off. The parents were squirting them with the mosquito repellent. One parent was tying the kids, 8 years old, 9 years old, tying his sneakers and tying his cleats and cleaning them off. And he said, gee, can you let the kids just do something on their own? And everybody, and those of you who disagree, write me and let me know you disagree. But every child I knew growing up, by the time they were 5 or 6 years old, you know what they wanted to do? They wanted to get the heck away from their parents. They didn't want to ride in the car with their parents, except for special trips. They didn't want their parents at practice, watching them practice, because they wanted to be able to run around and cut up and do whatever they do without their parents watching them the whole time. Kids don't want to sit under their parents at 5 or 6. They want to go outside, they want to run around, they want to be around their friends, they want to break stuff and then blame it on somebody else. We are making them part of us in a way that is unnatural. We don't put them outside and tell them to just go anymore. We want to create the landscape for them for everything, as opposed to allowing them to create their own landscape. Now we then get frustrated because we're like, man, these kids don't know how to do anything. Man, they don't want to do anything. If they don't push a button, they're like, the world is over. And then they also get to the point where they think they know more than the teacher. I'm sure none of you know any children who think they are smarter than you. I never thought I was smarter than my parents. Ever. I thought I had some information that they didn't have, but I never thought I was smarter than my parents. To some extent, to this day, I don't think I'm smarter than them. I think I may be exposed to some things they haven't been exposed to, but I'm not smarter than my parents, and I definitely wasn't smarter than when I was 11 years old.
You don't have to be controlled like we were back in our days. We were told what we could record, what we couldn't. I remember recording some stuff that we did, and they didn't want to use any of it. They wanted to use this. But the kids can now do independent labels, independent production.
Well, not just the kids, anybody.
Or anybody.
Exactly.
I'm saying the kids, but anybody can. And I think that that's the huge difference in the era now. It even gives us the opportunity to put things out and use all the various social and other media outlets that
Well, I just want to thank everybody for tuning in, especially those who came out to Everlasting Life Restaurant. Really appreciate your support. And I want to thank all the people who are watching by way of a live stream. I think it's important that we tune in to the Roll and Grind show. Stay connected, stay focused. This show is doing some amazing things. And if you haven't, reached a point where you really believe that, then come on out.